Begin.
I have a script. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Let's do that again. Ready? Shabbat Shalom. We're going to encourage everyone to take a seat. It's so wonderful to see so many of you. Raise your hand if you're all the way in the back. Yay, thank you for being here and sitting all the way in the back. You have access to our worship on the screen over on the far right-hand side. Some of you may never have experienced our worship online. Hello, online community. Thanks for joining us this evening. We're so happy you're here. We're going to ask all of our online folks to keep yourselves muted because if you speak during the service, everyone in the sanctuary can hear you. So we're going to encourage you to mute yourselves now. Barbara Tischler, go ahead. There you go. Good job. So, we're very excited to see so many of you. And I'd like to just extend a welcome to some of you who may have been members of Temple Emanuel in the past, but haven't been here for a while. So welcome home. Welcome back home. We're so happy that you're here. We have what our 50th anniversary celebration committee has called the pre-service portion of our service tonight, and I would like to introduce you to our current president of the congregation. Karen Kahn is going to come up here and share a few words and help us out with this pre-service. Karen, the microphone's going to be right over here for you.
Thank you, Rabbi Olshine, and Shabbat Shalom and welcome. So wonderful to see so many of you here tonight, and thank you for joining us, not just for Shabbat, but for just such a special Shabbat service, celebrating Rabbi Pinkwasser's 50th year in the Rabbinate. So I would like to start by introducing a very special member of our community. We have Tempe Mayor Corey Woods. He's here. And he has a very special announcement for Rabbi Pinkwasser. So Mayor Woods and Rabbi Pinkwasser, will you please come forward? I'm going to get out of the way. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for having me here this evening. I have a very special thing to read this evening, but I will tell you, it's very, very difficult to actually do something special in secret when you have a piece of paper that's this big. But I do have this, and I wanted to make sure that I read this to the rabbi this evening. So it reads, whereas Rabbi David Pinkwasser has been a public servant for the past 50 years, serving the Tempe community by working to strengthen those who are most vulnerable and through providing spiritual guidance and support to our communities. And whereas Rabbi David Pinkwasser graduated Rabbinical Assembly College in New York in 1973 and began his career with Temple Emanuel of Tempe as an associate rabbi in 1978. He became the senior rabbi where he remained until 1998. And whereas Rabbi David Pinkwasser began his teaching career serving high-risk and special needs students from 1968 to 1984, he received his special education certificate from ASU right here in Tempe. He established the first Hebrew Jewish Studies special education program with a common curriculum utilized at most synagogues today. And whereas Rabbi David Pinkwasser is renowned for his outreach work with interfaith families and received distinction as the top outreach rabbi in the Pacific Southwest region. He served as president of the Tempe Emergency Assistance Ministry, helping families in need for 13 years. He also served as president of the Greater Phoenix Board of Rabbis, Israeli Bonds Board, and the Jewish Federation Board. And whereas Rabbi David Pinkwasser served as Religious Advisory Council for Maricopa County jails and state prisons, served as the Jewish chaplain for the prison, and as the Jewish chaplain at the Arizona State Hospital. He was a member of the Critical Incident Stress Management and Care Team for traumatized airline personnel and passengers. And whereas the city of Tempe is grateful to Rabbi Emeritus David Pinkwasser for serving others at the heart of everything he does, his leadership, hard work, and deep commitment to the entire Tempe community, and has set an example for others throughout his tenured career. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare June 9th, 2023, as Rabbi David Pinkwasser Lifetime of Service Recognition Day in Tempe, Arizona.
I am blown away, and now I do not have to do a sermon tonight. You have heard it all in a capsule. This is great, and I'm not sure where they got all the information, and fortunately it's all correct. That doesn't always happen. Thank you, and thank you, Mayor. I love this. I will keep this close to me.
Thank you, Rabbi. We had really good sources, so that's all I'm going to say. Very good. We are gathered here tonight to celebrate Rabbi David Pinkwasser's 50 years in the Rabbinate. 50 years in any profession is a remarkable achievement. Would you agree? Right. He and his wife, Anne, were part of Temple Emanuel at its inception in 1976. He was hired as an assistant rabbi, as you heard, in 1978, and in 1979 became Temple Emanuel's full-time rabbi. Michael Ginsberg, a founding member and Temple's fourth president, would like to share a personal story about Rabbi Pinkwasser during that time. And so I'd like to call Michael, who is one of the people that we draw wisdom from. And I know that he's been a great advisor to me as a president, and I'm just excited to hear your personal story. Thank you, Michael.
I'm very scared.
Actually, I have nothing more to say. The mayor said everything, and now Karen said everything. So I'm going to deviate just for one moment. In the congregation tonight, I think we should recognize a person who is responsible for all of us actually sitting here and being here, and that's Jerry Hirsch. And Jerry, would you stand up and everybody know he started this synagogue. He got the land for us, got everybody working. We appreciate your being here. As a community, how are we so lucky to have you, Rabbi David, as our rabbinical leader for 20 years at our shul right here? Well, it seems that Rabbi Pinkwasser always made smart choices at the right time. Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. Let's take a walk down Rabbi David's memory lane to see how he got to tonight through the choices he made over the past 50 years. When he completed his undergraduate degree in 1970, the Vietnam War was in full swing. Some of you are too young to remember that. So then David Pinkwasser chose to become a rabbi to avoid the draft. Smart choice. After being ordained, he wanted to be a chaplain, but there were no jobs. So still, to avoid the draft, he became a high school teacher. He taught Spanish in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn. Some of us know that area. Again, that was a smart choice. However, they eliminated a teaching position. He was offered a job in a junior high in Bronzeville, New York. Some of us know Bronzeville, New York. It's not the best neighborhood in New York. It's like south part of Chicago if you're from Chicago, or it's like downtown Detroit, or South LA. When they eliminated the position and he went to go for an interview, he was told he should park the car as close to the school, get out, and run like you know what into the school office for the interview. After hearing this, his wife, Anne, who's been the best choice he's ever made. Stand up, Anne, stand up. She doesn't want to stand up, okay. Okay, you'll have an opportunity later. So Anne said to David, convince him, get out of New York City, you can understand now why, and come to Arizona. Smart move. In Arizona, he looked for a job to teach Spanish, but there were none to be had. I think sometimes you have bad luck first looking for jobs to get them. However, there was only special education positions available. But David had no idea what a special education position was about, since they did not have them in New York at that time. But Rabbi Pinkwasser applied for the job, and guess what? Got the position. He went to ASU, as Mayor Wood said, for 2 summers to get certified in special ed. Again, a smart choice. He was then recruited by Congregation Beth Israel's religious school director to start a special education Hebrew program. He took that position. Smart choice again. In 1976, Temple Emanuel opened its doors. Little did we know that Rabbi Pinkwasser and Ann came to the first meeting we had at the Church of Christ, and we had our 40 families there that started the synagogue. We didn't know that he was a rabbi at that time. In 1977, we were lucky to have a rabbi from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who had retired, Rabbi Marvin Resnikoff, to come out of retirement to lead us. In the beginning of 1978, Rabbi Resnikoff asked Rabbi Pinkwasser to help him, and thus Rabbi Pinkwasser became the associate rabbi. Another good choice, both from the temple standpoint and the rabbi standpoint. In 1978, Rabbi Reznikoff's health was failing, and he could not handle the full-time duties any longer. He suggested that we hire Rabbi Pinkwasser. I was the board treasurer, and I was asked to propose to Rabbi Pinkwasser that he become Temple Emanuel's senior full-time rabbi. Here's where the story gets interesting. So my wife, Laurel, and I asked David and Ann, we were on a first-name basis then, to go to dinner on a Saturday night. Neither the rabbi or myself could remember where we went to dinner, but trust us, we went to dinner. I drove, and Ann and David sat in the back seat. Not what you're thinking at all. We had a delightful dinner and a lovely conversation. After dinner, we went back to the Pinkwasser's home, and I drove up onto the driveway. I stopped the car, turned around to see Ann and David, and said, "Would you like to be our full-time rabbi?" Without hesitation, Rabbi Pinkwasser said yes. We shook hands, and the deal was done. Smart choice by both parties. And now you know the rest of the story. Rabbi Pinkwasser, it's been an honor for this whole congregation to have you as a rabbi, a teacher, and a friend. Congratulations on 50 years in the Rabbinate.
Did you want to say something? No. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Rabbi Pinkwasser was our rabbi, as you heard, for 20 years, retiring in 1998. After his time here, he continued to be active in the greater Phoenix Jewish community. That involvement continues to this day. The success of a rabbi is not measured merely by the number of years that he or she has practiced, but rather by the number of lives across generations a rabbi has touched, and by the number of individuals and families he or she has helped in time of need, by listening, by teaching, and by guiding. To demonstrate Rabbi Pinkwasser's reach over the last 50 years, please rise and then remain standing if you or your family have experienced any of the following. And I'm going to add a bullet here, actually. If you are part of our initial 40 families and you are here tonight, please rise. So Jerry, that would be you. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Without you, we literally would not be here. Remain standing. You might be standing up for a little bit. So, okay. If Rabbi Pinkwasser has officiated at a bris and or a baby naming for your child or grandchild, please rise. Or you. Maybe it was you. Yes, true. Very good. Wonderful. If Rabbi Pinkwasser has officiated at your or your child's, or maybe grandchild's bar or bat mitzvah, please rise. If Rabbi Pinkwasser has officiated at your wedding or the wedding of our child, or if your child or grandchild, please rise. If Rabbi Pinkwasser has been there for you and consoled you when you experience a serious illness or the loss of a loved one, please rise. Wonderful. If you have benefited from any of Rabbi Pinkwasser's enrichment classes, such as Discovering Judaism and many other Judaic courses he offered, please rise. Wonderful. So just look around to see the number of lives that Rabbi Pinkwasser has touched just in this room. How incredible that Temple Emanuel of Tempe can bring together this Jewish community at a time when it's more important than ever for Jews to come together. So many of you were members of the past, making this house of worship so special. If you're here tonight, welcome back. This will always be your community and your home, and thank you for being here to celebrate. We'd love for you to come back. We'd love for you to return so you can assist in making our temple community stronger than ever. For all that Rabbi Pinkwasser has done, for all he has been to so many people, there is one person that I would be remiss not to mention, Ann Pinkwasser. Ann has been the rabbi's steadfast partner and has supported him and Temple Emanuel throughout all these years. Please come up and join your husband. It's getting crowded up here. Rabbi, we appreciate all that you have done for not only Temple Emanuel, but for the entire greater Phoenix Valley. Thank you from all of us. And now I'd like to turn back to Rabbi Olshein to begin our Erev Shabbat service. Thank you so much and Shabbat Shalom.
So we're going to begin our service today with Hine Matov Umana'im Shevet Achim Gam Yachad on 133. Please join us as we sing now and throughout our worship this evening.
To kindle the lights of Shabbat, light to call upon. Oh. Okay. To kindle the lights of Shabbat, like to call upon Ann and Evan Pinkwasser to please step forward. How many Jews does it take to light a candle?
And we are going to continue with Shehachianu in honor of Rabbi David Pinkwasser's 50th anniversary in the Rabbinate. So please join us as we, in just a moment, sing Shehachianu.
We continue as we greet the Sabbath with a song of welcome, Shalom Aleichem, which could be found on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bo'achem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu.
We continue on page 127. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in awe before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. As we now greet the Sabbath bride, in the mystical readings of the Jews, they speak of Shabbat as being a bride, and as we pray the Lecha Dodi, we are now going to greet the Sabbath bride. We're going to be singing this evening verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we get to verse 9, to actually welcome the Sabbath bride into the sanctuary, if everyone would please rise and face the doorways as we greet the Sabbath bride. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela la 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 lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor v'diborecha, Hishni anu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'liv ti la 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 kadodi, Likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Dodi likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lirat Shabbat lichu v'nelcha, Ki mekor haveracha, Nerosh mikedem nisucha, Zot ma'aseh b'machshavat tehil la 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 dodi, Likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Hitoreri, Ki va'orel rech kumiori, Uri shir daveri, Kevod anaya like negila la 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 kadodi, Likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. We b'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'b'sola, Tov emunei am sigula, Bo'ichala, Bo'ichala. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. La 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 kadodi, Likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. We continue with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. Amen. B'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael ba'agala ba'agala u'vizman kari v'yimeru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Le'olmei Almaya Yivarach.
Yivarach v'yishavach v'yipar Yiromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal Shmei Yehushah
Berichu.
Ve'elam yinkolem chata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Dami iram me'alma
rise to pray the Baruch Hu, our call to worship. Please be seated. Continue on page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma poteach shiorim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is an hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Haravim. Continue on page 150. Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam Yidei Yisrael Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Kein Adonai Eloheinu v'shachvenu, kumenu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki heim chayenu, v'yorech yameinu, Ubahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu li'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, Ohev Amo Yisrael. As we now rise to pray the watchwords of our faith, Shema Yisrael. My Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Please be seated. As we continue the V'ahavta on page 154 in Hebrew. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha vishinantaham levanecha vidibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvleftecha baderech utshachbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'chayu letotafot beinenecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha lema'an tiskeruhu va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hietem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lehiot lachem Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. We continue responsively on the bottom of page 157. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory, may earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to our way. Inspired by prophets, instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. As we now sing the song that Moses sang as he crossed the sea, but this is a special tune. This was written especially by our own Jimmy Kahn, who not only wrote the tune, but is also the first gentleman of this congregation, being married to Karen, and is one of ours, and he is a precious gem.
I wrote a new introduction in honor of Rabbi Pinkwasser 50 years in Rabbi.
We now pray the Covenant of Shabbat on page 162. This is the instruction to the children of Israel, which is given to us in the Torah, to observe the Sabbath. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam brit olam, beini u'bein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz, u'vayom hashvi'i Shabbat v'yinafash. The people of Israel shall keep the Sabbath. Observing the Sabbath throughout the ages is a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work and was refreshed. As we now come to the Amidah, the Tefillah, central portion of our service, we will be praying the introduction to the Amidah on page 164, and then we will be praying the remainder of the Amidah silently. Do this by the text in the book, 166 to 178, for the prayers of our heart. We would now ask you to please rise. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Sifatai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi. Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Satai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi. Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Satai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi. Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Satai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi. Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Satai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi. Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Satai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi. Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Satai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi. Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Adonai. Ananananananai Satai Tita. Anananananana Ufiagi. Ufiagi Tehilatecha. May we now pray. We now begin our silent prayers, and when you have completed, you may be seated. Shalom Bimbroma, Uyase Shalom Aleinu, E'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Yase Shalom, Yase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael. We have a special treat tonight. Tonight we're going to be naming the baby of Marnie and Tenny, and baby's name is Hollis Reed Vaughn Pinkwasser, and Marnie is my niece, and this is going to be a great thrill. If you would please step forward. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, O eternal God and God of our ancestors, grateful for the gift of new life, happy parents have entered your sanctuary to give thanks to your name and to voice the longings of their hearts in prayer. Guide and sustain them to give their daughter the knowledge that you are near to her. Keep open her spirit that she may learn to love the goodness that is in all people, that she may nourish the goodness that has been implanted within her. Grant her above all a loving heart, that she may live to do your will with faithfulness and with joy. And now, if you would tell us how you chose these names.
Oh. I'm not accustomed to public speaking. So in utero, we were calling her Baby Buzz because we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. So then once we came out of utero, discovering she is a beautiful, healthy baby girl, her name being Hollis was different. I'm going to probably defer to my wife on this story. Come up here a little further. I told you I was not accustomed to public speaking.
You want me to tell about Hollis?
Sure.
Hollis is a town in New Hampshire where when my family immigrated to the United States, they landed in Hollis, New Hampshire. So the sort of sentimental explanation is that Hollis was significant in the start of our family, my family in the United States, and Hollis is significant in the beginning of our family together.
I would have told you I just liked the name.
Yeah.
There's that.
Now, her Hebrew name.
Now her Hebrew name, do you want to?
Yeah, no, please.
Okay. So like Marnie was saying, we called her Buzz, Baby Buzz, when I was pregnant, and we were thinking of ways to honor her family, and my mom's mom was Ruth, and she passed away a long time ago before I was born. And then we talked about honoring Marnie's grandmother as well. And so we knew that Marnie's grandmother's Hebrew name was Devorah, which we learned actually means bee, like Buzz. So it feels very kismet, if you will. So we have little Deborah Ruth, Debbie Ruth.
Okay. A name is very important. We learned that the title Rav, Rabbi, has the connotation of being leader, teacher, wise person, a very special and honored one. But the name Rabban is even more so, which means their rabbi, or the title Rabbeinu, meaning our rabbi. For example, Moses was referred to as Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our rabbi. But the highest honor is Shem, name. And the great ones were known only by their name. When we talk about the scholar Hillel, it wasn't Rabbi Hillel, it was just Hillel, or Shammai, or the Baal Shem Tov. These were people that were known by their names. May this name that we now bestow from without have greater meaning for her within. So now we give your child the Hebrew name of Deborah Ruth Bat Miriam Leah. And now we offer the baby the priestly blessings. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. May the Eternal One cause the holy countenance to shine upon you and be gracious unto you.
Yisodnai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God lift up God's countenance to you and grant you peace.
Amen.
Mazel tov. And there you go. He's a preacher. Yes, yes. Love you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We continue with the Torah service, which can be found on page 362.
For opening up the art doors, we have Sue Dermer, we're calling forward, and Thea Weiss, in honor of opening the art doors. And who's going to take out the Torah tonight, Rabbi Pinkwasser?
Two sons. I'd like to call up Josh and Aaron Pinkwasser. The congregation, please rise for the opening of the ark.
Page 364, if you're following along. Page 364, Ki Mitzion. In these scrolls are the secrets of our people's life from Sinai until now. Their teachings, its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it. Page 366, Baruch Shanatan. Baruch Shanatan, Torah, Torah, Baruch Shanatan, Torah. Shema Yisrael, Adonai
This evening's Torah portion speaks about the second Passover offering. Now, when people hear about it, they think it's a second night Seder, but Seders aren't going to happen for another several hundred years later. So what is happening here? This is a special offering. It was an offering that was given by the Israelites to God to show their appreciation for the freedom from slavery in Egypt. So what happens here is that they come before the priest, they bring a young lamb, the lamb is slaughtered, the blood is sprinkled on the altar, the meat is roasted on the fire, given back to the people, and then the people eat that together with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. Quite simple, nothing like the Seders that we go to today. However, there's always a however. There were many people that were not able to do this because they had come in contact with the dead. And if you do, then you are spiritually unclean, you can't make the offering. And they said to Moses, why should we be denied this beautiful privilege? This is now, putting it in time perspective, 2 years since the Exodus from Egypt. And Moses said, let me see what I can do. And of course, Moses had a direct connection to God, and he says, what shall we do? And God said, let them do it in the second month instead of in the first month, so that they will have the opportunity to do this. So what we learn from this is that Judaism is not rigid. There are always exceptions. Change is acceptable. And this is something that is very important, that Judaism is open to opportunities, and we are not as rigid as people might think. We are given laws, and the laws form a framework. They are not the building, they are the structure, the outside. And the way we build our building inside happens to go according to the feelings of each individual. We are given 613 commandments. I personally think this is a little unfair. The Christians get 10, we get 613. The answer that Moses gave, it's not easy to be God's chosen people, so you get 603 extra ones. However, these mitzvot hit people in different ways. For example, the mitzvah of giving charity. There are some people who believe that if you are going to be charitable, then you have to do this hands-on, and you have to actually be there and work with people on a one-to-one. Other people feel, this is just not my thing. I want to help people who are in need, but I think writing out a check would be more to my liking. Both are helpful, both are needy. It's just a matter of how we view our life and how we want to interpret it. And the Torah gives us this opportunity to be flexible, to have change, and to make things happen that are meaningful in our lives. If you don't like the analogy of a structure, the analogy of a tapestry, of creating a picture, your design may be different than the neighbor next door, the colors you choose may be different, but they're all within the structure, and you are living your life Jewishly, but yet each one of us does it in a little different way. We create our own tapestry, and the flexibility that we find is part of who we are as Jews. So the message that we get from this Torah portion is that when you see a barrier, don't be stumped by it. Try to jump over it. If you can't jump over it, go around it. When you go around it, you may find the goal that you're looking for on the other side, or possibly, if it pushes you down a different direction, you'll find a new goal. But the most important thing is to keep trying and to keep working within the structure. For our first Aliyah, I would like to call upon Ann, Josh, Aaron, and Evan Pinkwasser. Yamdu hamishpacha sheli.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. V'nata lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe b'midbar Sinai. And God spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, Bashana Hashenit, in the second year, Letzeta me'eretz Mitzrayim, since the departure from Egypt. B'chodesh harishon, in the first month, Lemor, saying, Vaya'asu b'nei Yisrael et haPesach, that the children of Israel shall observe the Passover, b'moado, in its appointed season, ba'arba'a asar yom b'chodesh hazeh, in the 14th day of this month, bein ha'arba'im, in the evening, ta'asu oto b'moado, shall it be observed in its appropriateness. Kechol chukotav, according to its statutes, bechol mishpatav, and ordinances, ta'asu oto, thus shall it be done.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For a second aliyah, I'd like to call upon the anniversary committee, if they would please come up. Yamdu Hakachal Hashana.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayedaber Moshe el bnei Yisrael, and Moses spoke to the children of Israel, la'asot et haPesach, to observe the Passover. V'asu et haPesach, to do the Passover, b'rishon ba'arba'ar asa yom, on the first month, on the 14th day, b'chodesh of that month, bein ha'arba'im, at evening time, Bamidbar Sinai, in the wilderness of Sinai, Kechol asher tziva Adonai el Moshe, according to all that God had commanded to Moses. Kain asu, thus shall they do, b'nei Yisrael, the children of Israel. Vayahi anashim asher hayu tameim, but there were people who were unclean, lenefesh adam, because of contact with the dead. V'lo yochlu la'asot haPesach bayom hahu, who could not observe the Passover at that time. V'yikrevu lifnei Moshe, and they came before Moses, v'lifnei Aharon, and before Aaron, bayom hahu, on that day. Vayomru ha'anashim hahema alav, and these people said to him, Anachnu temeim lenefesh adam, we are unclean because of contact with the dead. Lama nigara livilti hakriv et hakarban Adonai b'moado b'toch b'nei Yisrael. Why should we be denied the privilege of making an offering before God among the children of Israel? Vayomer aleihem Moshe. And Moses said to them, Imadu, Stand here, ve'eshma ma yitzaveh Adonai lachem, and listen to what God is going to tell you.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'torenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
And I want to personally thank each and every one of you. These people have worked like dogs. They have worked so hard putting this together. I can't even tell you the hours and hours that they've done. Thank you so much. It means so much to me.
It's special.
Yes. Oh. Thank you all.
It was fun.
Good. Good. Thank you all. Oh, too good.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. For a third aliyah, would like to call upon the person who instigated this evening, our own Rabbi Olshan.
I had to talk him into it.
I didn't even think about it because to me, a 50th anniversary of one's ordination is for old people. But she came up with the idea, and it was more difficult than you thought it was going to be.
I didn't think I'd have to talk him into it.
And, all of the pieces to make this evening happen are greatly appreciated. Ta'amod, Shlishi, Harav Leah, Bat Fredel Vedeni.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God said to Moses, saying, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to the children of Israel lemor, saying, Ish ki yihiyeh tameh lenefesh o b'derech rechoka. Anyone who has been in contact with the dead or has been away on the road, lachem uledorotechem, to them and to their families, asu Pesach, they shall observe the Passover, ladonai. B'chodesh Hasheni, in the second month, ba'arba yom, on the 14th day, bein ha'arba'im, in the evening, ya'asu oto al matzot me'orim yokluhu. They should eat unleavened bread and bitter herbs with it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For Hag Ba'ad, the lifting of the Torah, we call upon cousin Reuben Pikus. For Gelilah, the winding of the Torah, cousin Sharon Pikus. Will the congregation please rise?
Where is the, is this it?
This is it.
Adonai b'yad Moshe.
Yeah, please be seated.
Our thoughts now turn to those in our circle of family and friends who are in need of a prayer for healing of the body, the mind, or the spirit, as we turn to Amisha Berach for healing. This week, the following names will come up on the screen of individuals whose loved ones have submitted them for a prayer for healing. And so on the next slide, we'll find our list. And if you're in our online community this evening, if you have the name of someone that you would like to share, we invite you to share their name in the chat this evening so that we can also pray for your loved one as well. And so on the next slide, we find the names Cecilia and Gadi, Fruma Menucha bat Bela, Chaya Rachel bat Esther, Ahava bat Sarah, Gordon Bedak, David Lev ben Marjorie, Susu Bolton, Antoinetta Capuro, Arthur Cohen, Rachel Cumley, Nadav Rachmiel ben Miriam, Liz Fairman, David Foreman, Martin Gitter, Michael Glass, John Goldman, Arthur Sparky Grubb, Tammy Hallenbach, Susan Harner, Derek Harris, Catherine Hart, Tirza Haywood. Our list continues on the next slide as we find the following names: Bob Jastro, Daniel Kincaid, Joshua Kleinbrile, Donna Leibowitz, Dara Marino, Jerry Mavernack, Corey and Rachel McCarthy, Don McCormack, Gary, Pat, and Quinn Mitchell, Shirley Morris, Joanna Nadler, Loretta Kari-Jekas, Renee Patry, Eileen Penman, Robert Poole, Donald Rosenblum, Nancy Salson, William Schubert, Jen Taylor, Barbara Tenenbaum, and Naomi Wildridge. This evening, if you're in our in-person community, we're going to invite you to share the names right now of all those for whom you were saying a prayer of healing of the body, the mind, and the spirit.
Michelle Ross, Ed Watkins,
And tonight we have Rabbi Koch online with us, helping us out with our slides. And Rabbi Koch, have there been names added into the chat so that we can say a prayer for healing for them? If you'll unmute yourself.
Rabbi Wellstein, I don't see any additional names. Actually, there is one, Sherman Jacobson.
And so we add Sherman to our prayers for healing this evening. On the next slide, you'll find the words written by Rabbi Deborah Settle and the late Debbie Friedman as we pray Amisha Berach for healing, the body, the mind, the spirit. We also think about all those in our circle of family and friends who are caregivers, and we pray for their strength on the journey alongside their loved ones as well. We sing Amisha Berach for healing. It's found page 511 in our prayer books if you would like to follow along.
Make our lives a blessing and
say, I feel like you are the bar mitzvah boy.
Yes.
So I get the opportunity to introduce Rabbi David Pinkwasser, celebrating the 50th anniversary of his rabbinate.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we'll take the slides down, please.
I love it.
That's what they see at home. This is what you get with a woman rabbi. There you go.
I like that a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rabbi David Pinkwasser.
Okay. I had so much that I was going to tell you tonight, except the mayor came in and stole my thunder, and then Mike Ginsberg came in, and then Karen finished me off. But I'm going to finish them all off and give you the pieces that they didn't know. So the question is, who am I? Most of you think you know me. Well, you know pieces of me, and some of you don't know any of the pieces of me. So I would like to share it with you in the next 10 minutes. It would have taken 20 minutes, but they took the rest of it. I was one who always had the desire to teach. I guess it was because I always wanted to tell people what to do. But I realized that I couldn't do it without an education. So I did go to school and I studied. And I will tell you, I was not in love with going to school. I looked at school as being a means to an end. So when I went to Hebrew school, high school, my bachelor's, master's, my doctorate, my special ed training, my flight attendant training, and my critical response training, I did this all in less time than was allotted because my goal was not to stay in school, but to go out and share the information. I will tell you that the greatest amount of information that I got and training were from two rabbis, not necessarily from rabbinical school. One was Rabbi Resnikoff. Rabbi Resnikoff, for those of you who can see a show of hands, remember Rabbi Resnikoff. Okay. He was the kindest man in the whole world. He was such a kind man that when he passed away, Rabbi Levertov, Zalman Levertov, came to the funeral home and he said to the wife, I believe your husband is one of the 36 righteous men in this world. And there's a tradition that God has put 36 righteous people on this earth, and when one dies, another one comes to replace them. He said, and I believe Rabbi Resnikoff was one of these people. And this is pretty shocking coming from a Chabad rabbi to a Reform rabbi, but he was the kindest man and taught me kindness. Now, I came from New York. I came from a very large congregation, a congregation that had 2,000 families, a big marble bima. The rabbis sat on thrones. They were like kings. And I said, ooh, this is a good job. As Mel Brooks said, it's good to be king. And but as far as kindness, no, these were the scholars. And when they referred to God, they always called him God. And God said this. I'm going, really, you're from Brooklyn. You don't talk like that. But this is what I grew up with. And then I met Rabbi Resnikoff, who when he got ill and was unable to get around as much as he wanted, got a stack of postcards, and on the postcards he would write little sayings and little messages to people. And how many people here tonight have ever gotten one of Rabbi Resnikoff's postcards? You can see a show of hands. Yeah, it was something that people kept. And he drew these little stick figures on there, and it was his way of communicating with the congregation. For the first 6 months that we worked together, he called me sir. And I kept saying, Marvin, we're sharing the same office. Our desks are so close together that they're touching each other. Would you stop that and call me David? Okay, sir. You know, and it took a while for him to get over that. The other training that I got was from Rabbi Plotkin. And those of you who knew Rabbi Plotkin, he was a mover and a shaker. And he also was from a congregation of 2,000 families. And he taught me some really good stuff. He taught me how to organize, how to be spontaneous, and how to have a good memory. He would see people they hadn't seen in 20 years and go, oh, Mrs. Goldberg, has your gallbladder healed? And yeah, he would remember everything, and people loved him. And he was truly a leader. And I do remember doing a service with him one morning, and he did one at 9:30 and one at like 11:15. And it was now 9:28, and the service had to end. Well, we were only up to the Aleinu. We hadn't done the Kaddish, we hadn't done a concluding hymn, anything like that. He would stand up, and the guy was only like 5'3". And now we sing Aleinu Lishabeach as we leave the sanctuary and wish everybody a good Shabbos, and he would walk out and everybody was perfectly happy. Nobody said, Rabbi, you forgot the Kaddish and this. So he knew how to run the show. So I learned a lot of good things from him. But earlier in my life, I learned some other things. I started working when I was 11 years old. Sounds strange today, but it was true. I worked for a florist, and I went all over New York City delivering flowers. And I had the experience of delivering flowers to a funeral home. Well, I didn't know anything about funeral homes. Jewish kids weren't taken to funerals. I walk into the funeral home. They have this beautiful mahogany piano in the middle of the chapel, and I walk up, since I was a piano player, to see it, and it was a casket with a dead man laying in it. I dropped the flowers, I signed the card myself, and I left, and I went home, and I was just shaking. These were part of my lessons in life. They sent me through Midtown Manhattan. I was up on Times Square. I got to see hookers and sex shops and adult movies. Well, I came from a Jewish neighborhood. We had kosher butchers, a Jewish deli, and a candy store. We didn't have anything like that. And then I was sent to hospitals. I learned very quickly if I deliver the flowers to the hospitals, they will say thank you, and I won't get a tip. But if I say, what room is Mrs. Smith in? I'd go up to the room, I'd get a quarter. I have now increased my income by 25%. So I learned great lessons. When I was 14, 15, and 16, I worked for a wholesale liquor company. It was a large distributor. And I did clerical work, typing and filing. On Friday, they all went out for lunch. I went with them. Everybody ordered a cocktail. I ordered one too. Never got carded, never got questioned. The next year, they said, you're too smart for typing and filing, you're going into data processing. I was in the IBM room, I worked the UNIVAC and all the IBM machines and the key punchers and the sorters and collators, and it was great. They did the Friday thing, but they did the Wednesday thing. That was Knights of Columbus bingo. Do you want to go? Sure, I want to go. I'm 15. You have to be 18 to play bingo. Went with them, played bingo. After bingo, they went out to a bar for a drink. I went for a drink as well. Never got carded, never got questioned. When I was 16, I worked there again. I was now so proficient that when the company took a hiatus in the middle of July, they left me for 2 weeks by myself to run the department. And I did. And they said, here's the phone number of the manager. If you need him, you can call him. But he never was able to do that. I then worked, when I was 15, 16, and 17, for Barasini Candy. This was a great job. Not only all the candy I could eat, but I worked myself up from the stockroom to the sales floor. And while I was on the sales floor, I was traveling around the system. There were 65 stores, and I could go to any of the stores that had openings and get extra hours to work. So I did that. So one day, I'm actually in my home store. It had snowed that morning. I opened up the store, and now a robber comes in at gunpoint and holds me up. Terrific. Later, a few months, I'm now in a store in a Latino neighborhood, and a robber comes in and he goes, "Mita dite tukap." I said, "What?" He goes, "Mita dite tukap." I said, "No entiendo, hablo español." He goes, "Sí, manos arriba." I'm going, "Oh, gee, mister, this is a stick-up." So the manager was in the store, and she said to me, "I'm on the phone calling the police. Keep him there." "Señor, aquí está el dinero." I gave him the money. I said, "Señor, quiere dulces? Would you like some candy?" Started giving him candy. "Señor, quiere bizcocho también? Would you like some cookies too?" Sure, gave him some cookies. Now he's loaded up with the money, the cookies, and the candy. The police came and they took him away, and I said, "Adios, señor. Que le vaya bien." So that was that. So now I'm ready to go off to college. And when I go off to college, I have a very different perspective on what life was like, very different from those who lived in suburbia and who were on the volleyball team. So here I was, with all this street experience. So I knew what I wanted to do, and I know what I didn't want to do. And what I wanted to do was to be an interpreter at the UN. That was the most glamorous job for any language person. Khrushchev, banging his shoe on this was glamorous stuff. But I'd get drafted. I wanted to be a college professor. They got drafted. So I said, I'll be a high school teacher. That worked until my senior year, and then they got drafted. So I went to my fourth choice, and that was to become a rabbi. Now, this may sound very strange, but as president of the Board of Rabbis and as president of the ministerial group, I can't tell you how many people were the exact same age as me, because something significant had been going on 20 years before. So many of us have chosen the profession of clergy. I will tell you there were approximately 60-ish people in my freshman class. 2 of us made it to graduation, so it was tough. And the dean of the school said, "Out of all the people in the school, you were not one of my multiple choices that I thought would do it." And I said to him, "I will beat you at your own game. I will show you that I can do it." So all the other stuff that I was going to talk about, the special ed and whatever, you've already heard. But what I loved about the job is that I got to touch not hundreds, but thousands of lives. I was there for life cycle, for counseling, you name it. All of those things was wonderful. The special ed training was very interesting, because when I came here, I had enough education credits that with the summer at ASU, I could get a provisional certificate in September, and then going in the fall, the spring, and the following summer, got certified in every area. It opened up things to me that I never knew existed, helping people with learning problems, with emotional handicaps and mental handicaps. And working in the state hospital, working with people who had mental illness was very eye-opening. Working in the prisons with people, and I will tell you, most of the prisons were fairly local. I could leave for a couple of hours, go do a prison visit, come back, was no big deal. But once a month, I did my sweep around the state. And I started and went to Globe, and then Safford State, Safford Federal, Fort Grant. I spent the night in Fort Grant in the prison. And no, I was not in a cell. They had guest quarters. I spent the night there, woke up in the morning, went down to Douglas, up to Tucson, over to Picacho, down to Florence, and I was back in the office at 3:30 because bar mitzvah class was at 4, and taught bar mitzvah class, and then we did Torah study the same evening on Thursdays. That was kind of education day, and did adult Torah study at 7 o'clock. But these were joyful things. These were things that were part of my life. So now in retirement, what was I going to do? Well, I had a business plan, and Ray Perlman knows a lot about the business plan. It was going to take place in Carson City. For one reason or another, the business plan didn't quite work out, which brought me to Southwest Airlines. And I want to tell you, that was a fantasy of mine. That was something that I always wanted to do. However, I graduated in 1967. They were not hiring men to do that. You had to be a woman, you had to be tall, and you had to be gorgeous. Didn't have any of the requirements. And now, I thought about it, and I said, oh, they're not going to hire an old guy. And Ann was the impetus. She said, apply for the job. They don't want you. They won't hire you. So I applied for the job, got hired in days. It was very quick. 2 years into the flying, people knew about my background and put me on the critical incident response team. So I went through the basic training and the advanced training. And it was my rabbinical background that helped me. We worked with people that had traumatic events. They either were in a turbulent situation where they got banged up, they might have had a decompression, death on board, serious medical, attacked on an overnight. I was one of the people that they would call. I would calm them down to make sure that their acute stress didn't become post-traumatic stress. My teaching background put me into the cohort program. So the people that came out of flight attendant training, they could recite every FAA rule and regulation, but would they be able to serve a drink on a 45-minute flight? The answer was no. So I flew with them on the first trip, and if it was a 3-day trip, I did 2 of the 3 days, and I said, I'll show you how to do a short flight, how to do a long flight, how to do things on the plane where you're not going to aggravate your fellow flight attendants, and certain etiquette, and it was a beautiful job. I also got certified as a LODO, Language of Destination Origin. So this is a worldwide program where they test you to see if your language skills are good enough. So I was tested in Spanish, and the concern was not that, would you like a drink, but if there was an emergency, could I explain the emergency procedures in clear enough terms in Spanish for people to understand? So I got to fly between the United States and Cuba, and when we would land in Cuba, these are people that hadn't seen their families maybe ever, and now they're going to meet grandma or their grandchild and stuff. And before we landed, I sang them the Celia Cruz song, Nunca podrá morirme, and everybody started crying. It was really a beautiful thing. Went down to Mexico City, Central America, wonderful job. All I can say is I couldn't have done all these things without my family. My family was so encouraging, and there was such craziness. Ann and the kids were just a tower of strength. There were so many times that I was gone for hours or days and missed family functions, but they were there. And what I learned was that you not only hired me, but you hired all of us, and they were certainly there. I do want to thank everybody, the congregation, old and new, and to see the faces of people that I haven't seen in so long, it just makes my heart sing, and it's wonderful to see family who have come in from Florida, Colorado, California, and here in Arizona, where the bulk of my family lives. And Rabbi Olshine, who was the instigator of all of this, and I want to thank you for it. It is more than I ever expected. And of course, the anniversary committee, just the most wonderful people. So now the bottom line to all of this is work hard. You can fulfill your goal if you make it happen. Don't ever take no for an answer. If you can't get down one route, take another route, but never give up. And remember one thing, and I say this to myself all the time, Adonai li velo ira. God is with me, I shall not fear. And I knew somehow with all that I did in my life, God was going to be with me and help me through this. And as we pray this evening, the last words of Adon Olam that we sing is Adonai li velo ira. So I hope you can take those words into your heart and take them home with you, that God is with you, you shall not fear. All I can say is I feel a kinship to this congregation. I feel a closeness. I felt that all I was doing my job, but I did feel that if you do your job, you need to do it well and try to the best of your ability. I want to thank Tempe Emanuel for having faith in me, and I hope that I have made all of you proud, because you have made me feel fulfilled and whole. Shabbat Shalom.
So we're going to give him a standing ovation because we're going to return the Torah to the ark. Everyone please rise. So we're returning the Torah to the ark, so please remain standing. We have 4 individuals. That was your standing ovation and returning the Torah, okay?
Yes.
So we have 4 individuals to help open the ark doors. Bill McClellan and Mel Kessler, Pat and Joe Shipley. If you will, all 4 please come forward right now. And so, if you would please open the ark doors, we're going to sing Eitz Chaim. Eitz Chaim, because rabbis give a lot of blessings to people. But rabbis don't often receive a blessing. And rabbi spouses receive blessings even less. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to ask you to turn and face everyone. And so, you have been blessed with more than 50 years of marriage. Yes. And a couple of kids. And there's, raise your hand if you're like related-ish. Okay, that's impressive. That they showed up. Right.
That's how you have a big crowd.
By all the families, right? And so you are loved by all of these people who got in cars, planes, trains. They came from here and from far because they wanted to celebrate with you. In addition to the ones that are related to you. Right. And so I'm going to stand behind you and give you the blessing of our people. I'm going to say, may you be blessed with long life, more health, happiness, continued recovery. And so we're going to say this blessing, and then we're going to move right into the Emanuel. And so I can't put my hands on your head up front, so I'm coming around. I don't know, this isn't working. Let's see. I don't know how to do this for two people. And so we say, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and protect you. May you always feel safe and loved, encircled by all of these individuals, by their hearts, their kind acts, and most of all, the goodness that they bring to both of you. May God's face always be lifted up unto you. And you always feel a sense of grace, a sense of unearned love in everything that you both do. May you always feel a sense of wholeness in everything that you do. May you have long life, happiness, and most of all, a sense of completeness, a sense of peace. And together we say, Amen. Now let us turn around. We're going to sing the Aleinu, which I always say means it is upon us. The beginning of our closing prayers, the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, l'teitinu ha'le'oseh b'reishit, shelo asanu k'yoyei ha'ratzon, ve'lo samanu v'mishkachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu b'ahem, ve'gor aleinu kechol hamona, va'anachnu omrim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech Machem HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As the art doors are closed, I'm going to invite everyone to be seated. We're going to say thank you to Ian for coming up and for supporting him all these magical years. Thank you. And we're going to turn our thoughts now to Kadisha Tom, the mourner's cottage, as we prepare to end our service this evening. And so, we first think about the individuals who are on the next slide, for whom we remember for the period of Shloshim, the 30 most recent days following our loved one's passing. And so we think of Yetta Parker, and we think of Liam Andrew McCarthy. We also think of the following individuals for whom this is the anniversary of their passing or their yard site. And so our congregation remembers the following individuals. And if you are in our online community this evening, we invite you to share in the chat the names of the individuals for whom you are saying Kaddish this week as well, so we can remember them as well. And so we remember Selma Abramson, Maury Andes, Norman Appel, Emanuel Block, Alexander Certain, Charles Joseph Dillon, Joseph Feinstein, Felix Glass, Israel Block, Mac Goldberg, Devore Gordon, Morris Has, Thomas Haywood, Cindy Hornick, Diane Husband, Ed Koreski, George Korobkin, Robert Kuvant, Ruth Langer, Dorothy Laporte, Peter McCarthy, Hannah Meltzer, Jeanette Mendelson, Seema Miller, Nikki Morris, Jerry Robbins, Linda Rubenstein, Marilyn Shane, Evelyn Schneider, Julius Weiner, and Mixa Weil. If there's someone's name whom I've mispronounced, or perhaps we've inadvertently left your loved one off our list for Kaddish this evening, please share the name of your loved one as my eyes meet yours. I'm in the back of the room.
Marty Abramson.
And Rabbi Koch, are there names that have been added into the chat to be remembered this week as well?
I believe no one has added a name for us to join them in remembrance this evening.
Thank you, Rabbi Koch. And so we rise in body or in spirit, always remembering the lessons our loved ones taught us, always remembering that we say this prayer not only for our loved ones, but for those who have no one to say Kaddish as well. And so we say these words, hallowed by the generations. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, Ve'alma divrach chirutei ve'amlik malchutei, V'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'olnei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal Shmei tekudashah b'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushtachata v'nechemata Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yahei shalama rabba min shemaya V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and bring comfort to all those who are bereaved, both among us and those who are bereaved all around the world. And together we say, Amen. I'm going to invite you to be seated. And then we just have a couple more things we're going to do. Mm-hmm. We're going to sing your favorite hymn? No, the requested hymn.
The requested hymn.
He's doing requests now. So we're going to sing Adon Olam, and then I'm supposed to tell you that our Oneg Shabbat this evening in honor of Rabbi Pinkwasser's 50th anniversary is going to be held in the multi-purpose room, which is down either of these two corridors. You can get to the multi-purpose room. And we're going to walk out, and we're going to be there, and then we'll have Kiddush and Motzi with all of you in the multi-purpose room. So let us head out that way during the final closing song, and then we'll meet you in the multi-purpose room. Is that what I was supposed to say?
That's good.
Okay.
That is good.
And so the requested hymn is
Adon Olam.
Adon Olam.
Is there anybody here that doesn't know Adon Olam?
All right.
Okay.
We're ready.
Please rise for the benediction.
Adonai oz liyamo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. God will bless his people. God will bless all people with peace, now and forever. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.